We are at stage 10, paragraph page 839. Last
Mm-hmm.
headword was via newer type of lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start with our revision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. First question. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just scroll down. Okay, first question. If you have
Mm-hmm.
a problem with your central heating, who do you need to hire to fix it? If you have a problem with your central heating, who do you need to hire to fix it? If you
Mm-hmm.
have a problem
If you have a problem
with your central
with
heating,
your central
you
heating,
need to hire
you need to
a
hire
plumber to fix
a
it.
plumber to fix it.
Greg, give me an example of the word huge. Give me an example of the word huge, please. He lives
He
in a
lives
huge
in
house
a huge
in
house
the country.
in the
He
country.
now realizes
In a realizes
that leaving his job
that leaving his job
was a huge mistake.
has a huge mistake.
Very good. When people go and live in another country because of their job, do they sometimes feel lonely at first? When people go and live in another country because of their job, do they sometimes feel lonely at first? Yes. When
Yes,
people go
when people
and
go
live in
when
another
live
country
another country
because of their job,
because of the job,
they sometimes
they
feel
sometimes feel
lonely at first.
lonely at first.
Right? Do people always feel lonely when they're alone? Do people always feel lonely when they're alone? No.
No,
People don't
people
always
don't
feel
always
lonely
feel
when
lonely
they're alone.
when they're alone.
Very good. If you want to know the definition of a word, what kind of book do you look in? If you want to know the definition of a word, what kind of book do you look in? If I want to know
If I want to
the
know
definition
the
of a
definition
word,
of a
I look
word,
in a
I look
dictionary.
in a dictionary.
Very good. If you have had loads of money, do you think you'd be a more generous person? If you had loads of money, do you think you'd be a more generous person? Yes or no?
Yes,
If I had
if I
loads
had
of money,
lots of money,
I think I'd be
I think I'd
a
be
more generous
a
person.
more generous person.
Very good. Are people who try to make the best of unpleasant situations usually happier than people who don't? Are people who try to make the best of unpleasant situations usually happier than people who don't? Yes. People
Yes,
who try
people who
to make
try
the best
to make the
of
best
unpleasant
of an
situations
present
are
situations
usually happier
are usually
than
happier
people who don't.
than people who don't.
Very good. Do you always make the most of your free time or do you sometimes waste your time? Do you always make the best of your free time or do you sometimes waste your time? Yes or
Mhm.
no?
Yes,
I
yes.
always make
I always
the
make
most of
the
my free
most
time.
of my free time.
Very good. Are you sitting by the window? Are you sitting by the window? Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
I'm sitting
I'm
by the
sitting by
window.
the window.
Do you come to school by car? Do you come to school by car? Yes or no?
No,
I don't come to
I
school
don't come to
by
school by
car.
car.
Had had you gone to sleep by midnight last night? Had you gone to sleep by midnight last night? Yes or no?
No,
I hadn't gone
I hadn't
to
gone
sleep by
to
midnight
sleep by
last
midnight
night.
last night.
When one hires a lawyer, does one often have to pay by the hour? When one hires a lawyer, does one often have to pay by the hour? Yes. When
Yes,
one
when
hires
I hire
a lawyer,
a lawyer,
one often has
one often
to
has
pay by the
to
hour.
pay by the hour.
Very good. Are the measurements of a double bed about 200 centimeter by 140 centimeter? Are the
Mhm,
measurements of a double bed about 200 centimeter by 140 centimeter? Yes.
mhm.
The
Yes,
measurements
the
of a
measurement
double bed
of a double
are
bed
about
are
200
about
centimeter
200
by
centimeter
140
by
centimeter.
140 centimeters.
Wait, what nationality are you by birth? What nationality are you by birth? I'm
Mm. I'm Japanese
by
by
birth.
birth.
Very good. Do you know any poetry by heart? Do you know any poetry by heart? Yes or no?
No,
I don't know
I don't
any
know
poetry
any
by
any
heart.
poetry by heart.
Very good. If your school report was good, what did your parents say? If your school report was good, what did your parents say? If my school report
If my school
was
report
good,
was
my
good,
parents said,
my parents
well
said,
done.
"Well done."
Greg, were you ever reported to the head teacher of your primary school for misbehavior? Were you ever reported to the head teacher of your primary school for misbehavior? Yes or no?
No,
I was never
I was
reported
never
to the
reported
head teacher
to the head
of
teacher
my primary
of
school
my primary school
for misbehavior.
or misbehavior.
Well, if you were a newspaper reporter, what kind of news would you like to write about? If you were a
Hmm.
newspaper reporter, what kind of news would you like to write about? If I
Hmm.
were
If I
a
were
newspaper
a
reporter,
newspaper reporter,
I'd like to write
I'd
about
like to write about gossip.
gossips. Very good. I'll read them, okay? If if you bought a set of knives, forks, and
Mhm.
spoons, how many of each would you expect it to contain? If you bought
Mhm.
a set of knives, forks, and spoons, how many of each would you expect it to contain? If I bought
If I
a set
bought
of
a
knives,
set of
forks,
knives,
and spoons,
forks, and
I'd
spoons,
expect it
I'd
to
expect it
contain
to contain
like
mm,
five of each.
five each
Five of each.
of each.
Very good. Do you approve of people being allowed to smoke in public places? Do you approve of people being allowed to smoke in public places? Yes or no?
No,
I don't approve
I don't
of
approve
people
of
being
people
allowed to smoke
being allowed to smoke
in public
in
places.
public places.
Very good. What are the nouns of the verb approve and disapprove? What are the nouns of the verb approve and disapprove? The nouns
The
of the
nouns
verb
of the
approve
verb approve
and disapprove
and
are
disapprove
disapproval
are
and
disapproval
approval
and
and
disapproval
approval.
and
One
approval
more. Are approval
are
and
approval
disapproval.
and disapproval.
Very good. How is a track made? How is a track made? A track is made
Attract this made
by people
by
or
people
animal
or more animal
constantly walking
constantly
over
walking
the same piece
over this
of
same
ground.
piece of ground.
What's a running track? What's a running track? A running track
A running
is a
track
track
is a track
used for races,
used for races,
which we find
which we
on a
find
sports field
on a sport field
or in an
or in an
athletic stadium.
athletic stadium.
What are railway tracks? What are railway tracks? Railway tracks
Railway
are the
tracks
lines
are the
on
lines
which trains
on which
run.
trains run.
How can we tell the difference between a track of a horse and those of a cow? How can we tell the difference between a track of a horse and those of a cow? We
Mhm.
can tell
We
the
can tell
difference
the
between
difference between
the track of a
the
horse
track for a horse
and those of a
and
cow
those are cow
by the prints.
by the
The
prince.
prints left
The prince
by
left
a horse
by a
are
horse
round like a
around
horseshoe,
like a horseshoe,
where those of a cow
whereas those of a
are
cow
split down the
are
middle.
split down
The
in the
middle.
down the middle.
Very good. One more.
Mhm.
We can tell
We can
the
tell
difference between
the difference
the track
between
of a
the
horse
track of a horse
and those of a cow
and those of a
by
cow
the prints.
by the prince.
The prints left
The prince left
by a horse
by a horse
are round like a
round
horseshoe,
like a horseshoe,
whereas those of a
whereas
cow
those of a
are
cow
split down the
are
middle.
split down the middle.
How do the police track a murderer? How do the police track a murderer? The police
The police
track a murderer
track a murderer
mainly by searching
mainly by
for
searching
clues
for
and
clues
asking people
and asking people
questions.
questions.
Well, good. What do we call the set of instructions that tells us how to cook a particular dish? What do we call the set of instructions that tells us how to cook a particular dish? We call the
We
set
call
of
the set
instructions
of
that
instructions
tells us
that tells us
how to cook
how to
a
cook
particular dish,
a particular
a
dish,
recipe.
a recipe.
Very good. What can we say instead of they are like each other? What can we say instead of they are like each other? We can say
We can
they
say
are alike
they are like
instead of
instead
they are
of
like each
they
other.
are like each other.
What can we say instead of my brother looks similar to me? What can we say instead of my brother looks similar to me? We can say
We can
my
say
brother and
my
I
brother and
look
I
alike
look
instead
alike
of
instead
my
of
brother looks
my brother looks
similar to me.
similar to me.
Very good. What's the difference between a package and a parcel? What's the difference between a package and a parcel? the difference between
The difference
a
between
package
a
and a
package
parcel
and a
is
parcel
that a parcel
is that a
is
parcel
normally a
is
package
normally a
that
package
is sent
that
through
is sent through
the post
the
or
post
delivered
or
to
delivered
somebody.
to somebody.
What kind of products normally come in packets? What kind of products normally come in packets? Products such as
Products
biscuits,
such as biscuits,
sweets, and crisps
sweets, and crisps
normally come in
normally
packets.
come in package.
Ragged, if you went camping, would you prefer your tent to be on a campsite with proper facilities? Or would you prefer
Mhm,
to make your own camp away from everyone else? If you went
mhm,
camping, would you prefer your tent to be on a campsite with proper facilities? Or would you prefer to make your own camp away from everyone else? If I
mhm.
went camping,
If I went camping,
I'd prefer
I'd
my
prefer
tent to
my
be
tent
on a
to
campsite.
be tent campsite.
Amor, if I
Mhm.
went
If
camping,
I went camping,
I'd prefer my
I'd
tent
prefer my
to
camp
be on a
to
campsite
be on a
with
campsite
proper
with
facilities,
proper
facilities,
proper facilities,
and not away
and not away
from everyone else.
from everyone else.
Very good. What's a saddle? What's a saddle? A saddle
A
is a
saddle
seat
is
on a
a seat
horse,
on a horse,
bicycle,
bicycle,
motorbike,
motorbike,
etc.
etc.
Very good. What are the two most common ways of giving a sick person medicine? What are the two most common ways of giving a sick person medicine? The two most
The two
common
most
ways of
common ways
giving a sick
of
person
giving a sick
medicine
person
are
medicine are
orally or via
orally
an
or
injection.
by a injection or injection.
Very good. One more.
Mhm. The most
Common, the two
common
most
the two most
common ways
common
of
ways
giving a
of
sick
giving
person
a
medicine
sick person's medicine
are orally
are
or
orally
via an
or
injection.
by an injection.
Very good. Okay, so that's the end of our revision. Let's have new
Hmm.
word.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, so repeat messenger.
Hmm.
Okay, repeat messenger.
Messenger,
Pigeon.
pigeon.
Very good. Okay, listen. Pigeon is a noun. It is a large kind of bird that lives especially in cities.
Hmm.
Messenger is a noun. It means someone who delivers messages. For
Hmm.
example, a pigeon was commonly used in history as a messenger to deliver
Hmm.
important news over a long distance. Let's practice. Which
Hmm.
bird was commonly used in history as a messenger to deliver important news over a long
Hmm.
distance? Which bird was commonly used in history as a messenger to deliver important news over a long distance? The
Hmm.
pigeon
The
was
pigeon
commonly
was
used
commonly
in
used
history
in
as a
history
messenger
as a
to
messenger
deliver
to
important
deliver
news
important news
over a long distance.
over a long distance
How? How? By tying
by
a
tying
small written
a
message
small little
to
message
one of its
to one
legs
of its legs
and then allowing it
and then
to
allowing it
fly home.
to fly home.
Very good. Okay, now repeat adjective plus infinitive with to.
Adjective to
Plus infinitive.
infinitive with two.
Very good. Okay, so now let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about the construction. Any adjective
Mm-hmm.
plus an infinitive with the word to, like the base
Mm-hmm.
form of the verb with to. For example, listen.
Mm-hmm.
When an adjective is followed by an infinitive with to, it often
Mm-hmm.
communicates our feelings or reactions to a particular event. For example,
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to hear the news. Means that the news surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
The sentence I'll be happy to help you means that helping you will make me feel happy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's practice.
Mm-hmm.
When an adjective is followed by an infinitive with to, what does it often communicate? When an adjective is followed by an infinitive with to, what does it often communicate? When an adjective
When
is
an
followed
adjective
by
is
an
followed
infinitive
by an
with
infinitive
to,
with
it
two,
often
it
communicates
often communicates
our feelings
our
or
feelings,
reactions
our
to a
reactions
particular event.
to a particular event.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. She was
Mhm.
sad
She was
to say
sad
goodbye
to say
to her
goodbye
friends.
to her friend.
Very good. Okay, now let's talk about Noun
Mm-hmm.
or pronoun plus infinitive with to.
No, noun or pronoun plus infinitive with to.
Very good. Okay. Before it was adjective. Now it's noun or pronoun. So when a
Mm-hmm.
noun or pronoun is followed by an infinitive with to, it is
Mm-hmm.
similar to a relative clause. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I have a lot of work to do means the same as I have a lot of work that I must do.
Mm-hmm.
The sentence there is nothing in the fridge for us to eat means there is nothing in the fridge that we can eat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's practice. Give me a sentence with a noun or pronoun followed by an infinitive with to, please.
Mm-hmm.
Give me an example of a sentence with a noun or pronoun followed by an infinitive with to, please. We have
Mm-hmm.
loads
We have
of
loads
email to write.
of email to
I
write.
have nothing
I have
to
nothing
do tomorrow.
to do tomorrow.
Very good. Okay, next repeat. It's time.
It's time.
Very good. Okay, listen. If we use the infinitive after the expression it's time and say, for example,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to eat, it means
Mm-hmm.
that now is the proper or correct time to eat. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
we are at work and our lunch break starts now, so it's
Mm-hmm.
time to eat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. However, if we use the past tense after it's time and say, for example, it's time we ate, it means that
Mm-hmm.
we are a little late. Maybe our lunch will
Mm-hmm.
finish quite soon and we need to hurry.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that although we are using the past tense ate, we are not speaking about the past. We are talking about a situation in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Let's practice. What's
Okay.
the difference between it's time for us to leave and it's time we left? What's the difference
Mm-hmm.
between it's time for us to leave and it's time we left? The difference between
The difference
it's
between
time for us to
it's
leave
time for us to
and
live
it's time we left
and it's time we live
is that it's
is
time
that
for us to
it's
live
time for
means
us to live means
that now is
that
the
now
correct time
is the correct
to
time
leave,
to
whereas
live,
it's time
whereas
we left
it's time we
means
live
that
means
we
that
are a little late
we are little late
and maybe need to hurry.
and maybe need to hurry.
Greg, give me another example of its time followed by an infinitive. Give me another example of the word it's time followed by an infinitive, please. It's 9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock.
It's time for the
It's time
children to go
for
to
the
bed.
children to go to bed.
Very good. And give me another example of its time followed by the past tense. Give me another example of its time followed by the past tense, please. It's nearly midnight.
It's nearly
It's
midnight.
time the children
It's time to children
went to bed.
went to bed.
Very good. Again, next repeat. Beat, beat, beaten.
Beat, beat, beaten.
Very good. So it's an irregular verb. So the three
Mm-hmm.
forms of the irregular verb beat are beat, beat, beaten. To
Mm-hmm.
beat means to hit repeatedly. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I'm beating. Okay, here we go. I'm
Mm-hmm.
beating my pen on the edge of the table.
Mm-hmm.
To beat also means to defeat or to do better or to win. For
Mm-hmm.
example, my country usually gets beaten at football to lose. Okay, let's
Mm-hmm.
practice. Okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? You're beating your
You
pen
are beating your
on the
pen
edge of the
on the
table.
edge of the table.
Very good. Does your country usually get beaten at football? Does your country usually get beaten at football? Yes or no?
No,
My country
my
doesn't
country
usually
doesn't
get
usually
beaten at
get
football.
beaten at football.
Very good. Next, repeat. Chief,
Chief,
tribe.
tribe.
Very good. Okay, listen. Chief can be used as an adjective or a noun. As an
Mm-hmm.
adjective, chief means the most important or main chief.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I find the main difficulty for me in learning English to be grammar. Or we can
Mm-hmm.
say, I find the chief difficulty for me in learning English to be grammar.
Mm-hmm.
As a noun, the chief means leader. Tribe is a noun. It means a group of people who have the same language, race, belief, etc. For example, by
Mm-hmm.
the chief of a tribe, we mean the leader of the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Let's practice. What do you find to be the chief difficulty for you in learning English? What do you find to be the chief difficulty for you in learning English? I find.
I
The chief
find the
difficulty
chief
for
difficulty
me in learning
for me
English
in learning
to
English
be
to be
what? Gram-
grammar.
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 Very good.
Mm,
What do we mean by the chief of a tribe? What do we mean by the chief of a tribe? By the
mhm.
chief of
By
a
the chief
tribe,
of a
we
tribe,
mean the
we
leader
mean the
of the
leader
tribe.
of the tribe.
Very good. Next repeat. Disappoint.
Disappoint.
Disappointment.
Disappointment.
Very good. Okay, but we stop there for today and move on to our reading.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, so our reading is at
Mhm.
stage 7, paragraph page 547. Last headword
Mhm.
was bit. Okay, please start at paragraph page 548. Headword
Mhm.
snag.
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 A snag. Okay. What is a snag? A snag is a small problem. Give me an example, please. I need to send him an email, but there's just one snag. My Wi-Fi isn't working.
Mhm.
Defeat, election, politics. Is your country usually defeated at football? No, my country isn't usually defeated at football. Do you know which political party suffered defeat in the last elections in your country? No, I don't know. Oh, political
No,
party
moment.
suffered.
No, I
Hmm?
don't know
No, I
which
don't know which political party
suffered.
suffered defeat in the last elections in my country.
Mhm.
Phrase collection. What is a phrase? A phrase is a collection of words that belong together in a sentence because together they form a particular part of the sentence. Give me an example, please. At high speed, mind, object, passenger, excuse me, non smoker, babysitter, childminder. Do you
Childminder.
mind? What does the verb to mind mean? The verb to mind means to object to be careful of, and to look after. What can we say to the other passengers before opening the window of a train or a bus? Before opening the window
Of a
of
train.
a train or a bus, we can say to the other passengers, excuse me, would you mind if I open the window?
Very good.
Do you mind if people smoke near you when you are eating in a restaurant? Yes, I mind if people smoke near you when
Me. Near
I'm
me.
near me when you were eating in a restaurant. And if you do mind, what can you say? If I do mind, I can say, excuse me, but would you mind not smoking, please? What does someone mean if they say, don't mind me, carry on with what
What you're
you
doing.
are doing?
Mhm.
If someone says,
If
they
someone,
say,
if someone says,
said, if someone says, if they say, don't mind me, carry on with what you're doing, they mean don't consider me or
don't
don't
think.
think about me.
Very good.
If you didn't mind what you said in public, what might happen? If I didn't mind what I said in public,
Hmm.
I might get into trouble.
Very good.
If a sign above a door says, mind your head, what does it mean?
If a
If
sign,
a sign above a door says, it says that the door is low and you must be careful not to hit your head on it.
very good. Okay, so we stop there for today, but very good reading, very
Mhm.
good dictation, and very good practice